The rise of almond milk consumption represents one of the most successful marketing campaigns in modern food history, convincing consumers they're making a positive choice while obscuring the devastating environmental impact of industrial almond production. Welcome to another episode of Tasting the Truth, where today we uncover the devastating reality behind almond milk production and why your morning latte might be contributing to environmental collapse more than you realize.
Take the Almond Breeze Almond Milk Taste Challenge. Rich, creamy, lactose-free Blue Diamond Almond Breeze. The taste will blow you away, guaranteed or your money back.
Take the taste challenge. Details at almondbreeze.com.
The truth about almond milk begins in California's Central Valley, where 80% of the world's almonds are grown, a concentration of agricultural power that should concern anyone interested in food security and environmental sustainability. This region, once a diverse ecosystem teeming with native wildlife, has been transformed into a vast monoculture landscape that stretches as far as the eye can see, creating what ecologists now refer to as a green desert, a seemingly fertile area that's actually an ecological wasteland. The environmental cost, staggering beyond what most consumers could imagine. But we'll come back to that later. A single glass of almond milk requires more water than a typical shower, with the math becoming even more alarming when you scale it up to commercial production levels. We're talking about 370 liters of precious water to produce just 1 liter of almond milk, a ratio that becomes even more concerning when you consider that this production is concentrated in a state plagued by persistent droughts.
Most of that water is used to grow almond trees, which take years of watering before they start producing almonds. The trees must be watered consistently or they die.
To put this in perspective, while a typical American shower uses about 17 gallons of water, producing enough almonds for a single liter of almond milk requires nearly 100 gallons. This water-intensive crop is literally draining the future dry, pulling from ancient aquifers that took thousands of years to fill and may never be replenished. The situation has become so dire that satellite measurements show parts of the Central Valley are literally sinking as these underground water sources are depleted, causing permanent damage to the region's geology and water storage capacity. The almond industry's grip on California's water resources reveals a disturbing pattern of corporate control over essential natural resources, one that extends far beyond simple agricultural practices into the realm of political influence and economic power. Major agricultural corporations have secured water rights that give them priority access during droughts, often at the expense of local communities and ecosystems, through a complex web of legal arrangements dating back to the state's early water laws. These companies have mastered the art of marketing almond milk as an eco-friendly choice while orchestrating one of the most water-intensive agricultural operations in human history, employing teams of lawyers and lobbyists to maintain their privileged access to water resources even during severe droughts. The scale of this water appropriation is so massive that during recent drought years, almond orchards consumed more water than all of California's residents combined. Yet, this fact rarely makes it into the cheerful marketing materials promoting almond milk as a sustainable choice. Through careful manipulation of public opinion and aggressive lobbying efforts, these corporations have managed to position themselves as environmental stewards while simultaneously depleting crucial water resources at an unprecedented rate. The reality becomes even more troubling when we examine the power dynamics at play in California's agricultural regions. Small farming communities find their wells running dry as massive almond operations tap into increasingly deep aquifers, forever altering the region's hydrogeology and threatening the viability of traditional farming practices that have sustained these communities for generations. This isn't just about water consumption. It's about the privatization of a public resource for corporate profit, masked behind the veneer of healthy and sustainable marketing that has convinced millions of consumers they're making an ethical choice. The impact on these communities is devastating and often permanent. As water tables drop, the cost of drilling deeper wells becomes prohibitive for small farmers and rural residents, effectively forcing them to abandon their lands or sell to large agricultural corporations. This consolidation of agricultural power has transformed vast swaths of California's farming regions into corporate-controlled territories, where decisions about water use are made in distant boardrooms rather than by local communities who understand the delicate balance of their regional ecosystems. The environmental cost of almond production extends far beyond water consumption, creating a cascade of ecological disruptions that threatens multiple species and entire ecosystems. Consider the bees, nature's essential pollinators, and the hidden workforce behind almond production. You see, bees are essential to almond milk production because almond trees rely entirely on insect pollination to set fruit. Unlike some crops that can self-pollinate or be wind-pollinated, almonds require cross-pollination, meaning pollen must be transferred between different almond tree varieties varieties to produce nuts. Since California's massive almond orchards bloom all at once in early spring, there aren't enough native pollinators to handle the job. To meet this demand, commercial beekeepers transport billions, yes, billions of honeybees from across the country to the orchards, where the bees pollinate the almond blossoms over a short period. Without this intensive, large-scale pollination effort, almond yields would plummet, making industrial almond milk production impossible at its current scale.
So today, a lot of beekeepers just rent out their colonies for a couple months out of the year to be shipped out to California and to work on pollinating almond trees.
So each year, billions of honeybees are transported to California's almond orchards in what has become the world's largest managed pollination event, where they face a deadly cocktail of pesticides, stress, and malnutrition. This mass migration of pollinators represents an unprecedented manipulation of natural systems, forcing bees to work in conditions that would never occur in nature. Nearly a third of these bees die during every pollination season, contributing to the global collapse of bee populations and creating a crisis that extends far beyond almond orchards. The scale of this annual bee die-off is staggering. Imagine losing a third of any other livestock population each year and the outcry that would cause.
How many bees die trying to pollinate the poor old almond trees? About a third of the bees that pollinate the almond trees die, and now they have to have these big commercial interests that bring bees in, and in season they release the bees, and then the bees die out. We're losing bees like crazy in this country.
Bees play a crucial role in maintaining the balance of ecosystems by pollinating a vast majority of the world's flowering plants, including many fruits, vegetables, and nuts that form the foundation of both human and animal diets. Without bees, countless plant species would struggle to reproduce, leading to a decline in food sources for herbivores, which in turn impacts predators up the food chain. This disruption can cause cascading effects, threatening biodiversity, reducing crop yields, and endangering entire ecosystems. Additionally, bees contribute to soil health by supporting plant growth, which helps prevent erosion and maintain carbon sequestration. Their decline would not only jeopardize global food security, but also weaken the intricate web of life that sustains the planet. What makes this even more alarming is the sheer inefficiency of the process. Hundreds, if not thousands of bees are required to produce just a few liters of almond milk. Unlike naturally occurring pollination systems where diverse crops support bee health and sustainability, almond orchards demand an unsustainable number of pollinators for a relatively small yield. This imbalance highlights the exploitative nature of industrialized almond production, where entire hives are sacrificed for a product marketed as eco-friendly.
The number of bees, about a third of all bees die pollinating almonds every year. Like it is not a particularly clean product.
This mass death of pollinators creates a ripple effect throughout our food systems, threatening the production of countless other crops that depend on these industrious insects for reproduction. The impact extends to wild bee populations as well, as diseases and parasites from commercial hives spread to native pollinators, creating a wider ecological crisis that threatens natural ecosystems far from the almond orchards. Confined to their hives during long-distance transportation, often for days at a time, these bees experience extreme temperature fluctuations, dehydration, and limited access to food. Once they arrive at the orchards, they're exposed to new pathogens and forced to pollinate in pesticide-laden environments that compromise their immune systems and disrupt their natural behaviors. The transportation itself causes significant mortality, with many bees dying before they even reach the orchards. The surviving bees face additional challenges from the lack of dietary diversity in almond monocultures, as well as competition from the millions of other hives brought in for pollination. The irony is stark. A product marketed as environmentally friendly relies on practices that contribute to the collapse of one of nature's most important species, creating a cascade of ecological consequences that extend far beyond the immediate impact on bee populations. Beneath the surface of almond farming lies a concerning story about environmental damage that many consumers don't see. The problems begin in the soil, where intensive farming practices rely heavily on chemicals like pesticides and herbicides. These substances don't just kill unwanted pests, they harm beneficial organisms that have lived in the soil for thousands of years, creating a destructive cycle. As the soil becomes less healthy, farmers need to use more artificial fertilizers each year just to grow the same amount of almonds, further damaging the land's natural ability to support life. The chemical problem extends far beyond the orchards themselves. When these farming chemicals seep into the groundwater, they create pollution that affects both nature and human communities miles away from where the almonds are grown. In California, some communities have even had to find new sources of drinking water because their wells became contaminated with these agricultural chemicals. The situation becomes even more worrying when we consider that these different chemicals can interact with each other, creating combined effects that are more harmful than any single chemical alone. Another significant issue is the transformation of diverse diverse natural landscapes into vast almond orchards. Ecologists call these large single-crop areas green deserts because while they might look lush, they actually support very little wildlife. Where there was once a rich variety of plants and animals, now there are only almonds. This change affects everything from visible wildlife like birds and small mammals to tiny but essential organisms in the soil. Once these complex ecological relationships are broken, they can take decades or even centuries to recover, if they can recover at all. The environmental impact continues even after the almonds are harvested. Converting almonds into milk requires significant energy for processing, and then the finished product must be transported around the world. This creates a substantial carbon footprint from the energy needed for processing, refrigeration, and shipping. Surprisingly, in some European countries, locally produced cow's milk actually has less environmental impact than imported almond milk, challenging the common belief that plant-based options are always better for the environment. While supporters of almond farming often point to the industry's economic benefits such as job creation and export income, these advantages come at a high environmental price. When we account for the true costs, including environmental cleanup, health problems from chemical exposure, and the long-term effects of water depletion, the profit-driven approach to almond farming reveals itself as unsustainable both environmentally and economically. By understanding these hidden impacts, consumers can make more informed choices about their food and beverage options. Recognizing that environmental sustainability often requires looking beyond simple plant versus animal comparisons to consider the full impact of how our food is produced and distributed. The seasonal nature of almond farming compounds these issues, creating economic instability for entire farming communities. While the industry's profits continue to accumulate in the hands of large agricultural corporations, the workers who sustain it remain trapped in precarious working conditions, highlighting the deep inequities that underpin the system. Given these sobering realities, it is imperative to explore more sustainable and ethical alternatives to almond-based products. While dairy production is far from perfect, many local dairy farms operate within circular agricultural systems that significantly reduce waste by repurposing food industry byproducts as livestock feed. Some forward-thinking farmers are even experimenting with agroforestry techniques that integrate almond trees alongside other crops, fostering biodiversity and building more resilient agricultural ecosystems. By diversifying agricultural landscapes and reducing reliance on single-crop monocultures, these innovative approaches offer a more balanced and ecologically sound path forward. The moment you step into your local grocery store, you're met with an aisle filled with almond milk products, each meticulously designed to reinforce an illusion of environmental responsibility. The challenge isn't finding almond milk, it's seeing past the marketing tactics that manipulate consumer perception. A key element of this deception lies in the strategic use of green or dark green packaging, a color scheme carefully selected to evoke associations with nature, health, and sustainability. Marketers understand the psychological impact of this color, using it to trigger subconscious assumptions that the product is both environmentally friendly and a healthy choice. By leveraging dark green hues and imagery of pristine landscapes, almond milk brands create an emotional connection with consumers who are actively seeking ethical food choices. However, this calculated design choice masks the significant environmental consequences of almond production. Rather than being an eco-friendly alternative, the industry's extensive water usage, biodiversity destruction, and pesticide reliance contradict the very image they project. These marketing strategies, backed by millions in consumer research, are designed to reinforce a false sense of virtue. They specifically target environmentally conscious consumers, capitalizing on their desire to make ethical purchasing decisions while subtly steering them toward a product that contributes to ecological harm. This form of psychological manipulation, known as greenwashing, has become an industry standard, turning almond milk into a symbol of sustainability while conveniently omitting the devastating environmental toll of its production. On top of getting marketed as a so-called environmentally friendly product, it's also getting marketed as a healthy product. But at this point, is it even healthy to drink? Let's get an expert to answer this question right here, right now.
Well, what about the fake milks? So these are all industrial products unless you make it yourself. And what they figured out with almond milk was, we can take leftover parts of almonds and the ones that are broken and unsightly, and we can use those to make milk. And it's just a few almonds and some canola oil and some high fructose corn syrup, some flavorings, and we blend it up and we sell it for like $8 as a health food product. It's not a health food product. So almond milk is high in phytic acid that sucks minerals out of your bones, so you have to take more minerals. And it's also high in oxalates, which are the things that are causing kidney stones and things that are causing gout and joint pain when you wake up. Even if you have really bad skin and you're eating a ton of these high oxalate foods like almond milk and kale smoothies and all, this can be why, because it's making tiny razor sharp calcium oxalate crystals in your skin that are coming out. I don't recommend almond milk.
The future of sustainable agriculture hinges on diversification and localization rather than massive industrialized monocultures concentrated in a single region. Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we must develop regionally appropriate agricultural systems tailored to the ecological characteristics of each area. But what do we drink instead of almond milk? What is the solution here? Every episode, we end with the message that you should, on top of watching this video, do your own research before taking our word for it. Here is what we suggest. The alternative choice might be to shift towards locally produced organic raw dairy milk, which is often integrated into circular agricultural systems that repurpose food byproducts as livestock feed, reducing overall waste. Compared to water-intensive almond farming, dairy production in many regions can be more sustainable when managed responsibly. By prioritizing local dairy farming over almond monocultures, we can create food systems that work in harmony with nature rather than against it. Consumers wield immense power in shaping the future of food production. By demanding transparency from food producers and supporting farms that employ genuinely sustainable practices, we can drive meaningful change within the industry. However, true sustainability often comes at a price. Choosing responsibly produced dairy may mean paying more at the checkout, but the alternative, perpetuating environmental destruction and resource depletion for the sake of cheap, unsustainable products, is simply not viable in the long run. The future of food must be built on ethical, ecological, and economic responsibility. As we conclude this episode of Tasting the Truth, we encourage you to think critically about the hidden costs behind the foods you consume. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. If you found this discussion enlightening, be sure to like and share this video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more eye-opening investigations into the food industry's most pressing issues. In our previous episode, we explored the devastating impact of sugar on your health, an issue just as urgent and complex as the almond milk crisis. It's on the screen right now. Go watch it.